Okay, we're going to go through billing for December. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Okay, first thing we're going to do is go to a browser and go to Jira. All right, give it a second to come up. If you can't get to it, then Anand can give you access. I've got a link to it right here. It's at foxfire.atlassian.net. And then you just need to log in to get in. Okay, first thing we're going to do is go to Tempo. Tempo is the timesheet system. So we're going to click on that. Go down to Teams. We're going to click on the Foxfire team. And then we'll go over here to Timesheet. All right, the first thing we want to do is make sure we got the right date range. So let's go back to December because we're going to be running for December. So now it says December 1st to 31st. These are all the time entries down here that we've got for December. So we're just going to hit export, export to Excel, and you should see it down here on the bottom left, and when it's finished you can click on it and open it. Just to make sure everything looks okay. It's going to be slow because I just rebooted my computer. It'll come in protected view, so you got to hit enable editing. It may say that, it probably does. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a column here. The column we're going to add is for the Salesforce order number. So you can do it anywhere. I always just maybe choose here and hit insert. And then the column we're just going to call SF order number. Oops. All right. Okay, so that's all you have to do once you open up the time entries file. Just right click, add a column, and call it SF order number. So now we're going to save this. I'm going to save it in a directory I've created called December 17. And I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now we've saved our time entries from Jira. All right, the second thing we need to do is export the Salesforce order numbers. And what this is all the incidents that have been created with their Salesforce order numbers. And what we do is we use that to cross-reference what Salesforce order number was associated with what incident. So the way we do that is we go to Issues. You should see a filter called Salesforce Filter. And if you click on that, it'll run the filter. And that's your result. And all you want to do is click this export icon, and it gives you some choices of how to export it, and we're going to choose Export Excel CSV Current Fields. So we choose that. It'll ask us, it'll export it down here at the bottom left. You'll see it, there it is. And when it's finished, we're going to open it. Everything looks fine, so we're going to save this. And I'm going to save it in the same folder, December 17. And we do not want this as a comma delimited CSV file. So click on that and change it to Excel Workbook. And we're also going to call this SF Numbers. All right. And it really does need to be called that because it's going to use it when we get into Access. So save it. And we should have two files there. One is for the time entries and one is for the Salesforce numbers. All right, that's done. I'm going to minimize Jira because I don't think we're going to need it again. All right, the next thing is you need to open up Access. And the easiest way to do that is to go to Dropbox, go to this little folder icon here, go down to Monthly Billing, And it's right here. It's called Billing, and it says Microsoft Access Database. If you just double click on it and you have access on your machine, then it'll start up. If you don't have access on your machine, it won't start up. So if you get something like this, then you've got access and you're okay to continue. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, hold on just a second. Okay, the first thing we need to do is import those two files into Access. So the way you import is you go to External Data, up here at the top left, New Data Source, From File, Excel. So we're going to be bringing in an Excel spreadsheet into Access. So it'll let you browse for the file, and we're going to browse to that directory that we had, where we saved our two files. I saved it in Weekly Billing and then December 17. First one I'm going to bring in is this Team Foxfire. These are the time entries for December. So I'm going to double click. You don't need to change anything on this screen. Hit OK. You don't need to change anything on this screen. Just hit OK. You do need to click this row or this box up here called First Row Contains Column Headings. Hit Next. Nothing changes here. I do like to say no primary key here. You don't have to, but I do like to do that. Hit Next. And this should say Work Logs. It just defaults to that. And then say Finish. It will say Override Existing Table, which we do have, so we're going to go ahead and say yes to do that. Okay, we're done with that. The next thing we want to do is do the same thing for the Salesforce numbers. So external data again, new data source, from file, Excel. We want to choose the file. This time we're going to choose SF numbers. Nothing, no changes on this screen. This should be checked. No changes here. I'll say no primary key. Next. And this needs to be, the import table is SF numbers. So make sure you change it to that. And then Finish. It'll say, do you want to overwrite the existing query, table or query? And we say yes. And that should be brought in. Okay. So now we have all of our time entries in and all of our Salesforce numbers. The next thing we're going to do is start running some queries. And what you will see on this left-hand side are sections. And the first section are tables. They've got a little icon like a grid. If you keep scrolling down, the next section is called queries. And they have this little interesting exclamation mark. And this is where we're actually going to start moving the data around in the system to get to where we need to get to. So the first one is add Salesforce numbers. When I run these, I always like to right-click, hit Design View, and just kind of look at it, make sure everything looks okay. It does. And the way you run a query is you hit the exclamation point in the upper left-hand corner. So say Run. It says it's about to update 30 rows. We say yes. And what this is doing is this is cross-referencing the incident number for the time entry with whatever Salesforce number was assigned to that. And the reason that's important is because when we have Salesforce numbers assigned to an incident in Jira, it says that it's a prepaid job. So we don't want to charge any money for that. So that's why this is important. So we hit yes. We can close this, and we're going to move on to the second one. And this actually adds the data that we brought in. This adds this to the time entries table. So I'm going to design it here. You don't need to change anything in here. You just hit exclamation point. It'll say, do you want to append 195 rows? We'll say yes. You can close it. Now we're going to update rates. And here you probably do have to change something. I know it already says December, but normally this will come in and show last month's date. But this always needs to be the first date of the month you're working on. So since we're working on December, this should be December 1st. So once that's December 1st, you hit run. It's going to update 92 rows. And what this is doing is putting rates in for every time entry from the rates table. All right. And if we close this, I just double click this button here and this will close it. It'll say if you want to change it. And since technically we're going to be updating this date, we do want to save it. All right. Now we go to travel rate, right click, design view. This should be 12. We go ahead and run it with the exclamation point. Say yes, close it and save it. All right, now we're going to update our time with Salesforce orders. Design view. Make sure this says 12. Run it, update it, close it and save it. Update for time entries. Make sure this is 12. Run it, update it, close it and save it. All right, so now we've run the first the first six queries. The last query is the one where we actually take the finished data and put into a billing table. The first thing we want to do is go clear the data out of that table from the previous month. All right, so that table is at the very top. If you scroll all the way up, it's called Billing Report Table. So the easiest way to clear it is to double click on it. And normally this will have the last month. I've already run this once, so it's got our real data in it. But when you come into this, we're going to need to get rid of all this data. The easiest way is to click in the upper left-hand corner of this grid right here, and it'll highlight all of the rows, and then you just hit the delete key. And it'll say, do you want to delete 112 records? Now, it's really important to make sure you don't make a mistake here, because if you open up the wrong table and press delete, you could delete a lot of data that we don't want to delete. So make sure this is, around 100 to 200 records is about the normal that it'll delete. Hit yes and close it. All right, we're going to go back to the query down here that says billing report. Right click, do design view. Make sure these two dates right here are the first day of the period that you're working on. So we're going to make sure these are 12. And I'm just redoing them so that it'll ask us to save it. All right, and then you run it. And you close it and save it. And we're pretty much done with getting the data in the system. Now all we have to do is run the reports and save them and send them out to everybody to review. And we're pretty close to getting the billing done. Okay, if you scroll down to the next section, which is reports, there is a report called Billing Report Summary, and we're going to double click on it. And this actually looks right. So we're going to go ahead and save this, or actually print this out to a PDF so we can send it an email. This is going to have to be looked at. It looks wrong to me because we're charging LaBarge $26,000. I'm pretty sure that they pay on installments. So nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and send it out, and then we can make corrections after we find out all the changes we need to make. So once you got the report up, you just hit print, and you need to print it to a PDF, which I'm using this cute PDF writer. And it'll ask me where to save it, and I'm going to save it. Call it Billing Reports Table, December 2017. I've already created this, so it's going to, I'm going to save it. It's going to ask me if I want to overwrite it. I say yes. All right, so that's the first report. You can close Print Preview. And the second report is the Customer Billing Report down here. And if you double click on it, you will see the report. Now, this date is correct because I'd already changed it, but it's very possible it will be wrong and it will need to be changed. The way you do that is you go in the upper left-hand corner where it says View. you click the little arrow underneath it and you say Design View. When you say Design View, it'll let you go to this this field here, and if you just click in it, you can change it to whatever you want. Whenever you get it to December to 2017 or January 2018 or whatever, then all you got to do is go back up here to View, and I always like Print Preview. It's the easiest way to see it exactly like it's going to work, like it's going to be printed. So I do Print Preview, and here is exactly what's going to be printed out for the billing report. So I'm gonna go print this and save it, and we print it the same way we did before with Print PDF Writer. It's a bunch of pages. It'll say where do you want to save it, and we will save it billing report or customer reports December. Save. It's going to overwrite it because I'd already created it, but normally this would be the first time you were creating it, so it would not overwrite. And when you close this report, it's probably going to ask you to save it because you're probably going to end up changing this date. So I just close it, save it, and that's pretty much it for billing. If we go back and look at what we saved, let's see, we have our PDF here, which is exactly what we want. We're going to send this out to John and Anna and everybody else to make sure that it looks okay. And if everything looks okay, it's ready to go to Janet. Janet knows everything to do from here. If it's not, we'll have to make changes, and that's probably going to be another video. So if we do need to make changes, I'll do another video on that. All right, that's it.